I want to talk to you, not to the crowds or to the subscribers. Right now, I am talking to the woman with the earbuds in. I am talking to the woman who is gripping the steering wheel in traffic, hoping to find a moment of peace before she walks through her front door. I see you sitting in that car in the driveway, maybe taking an extra 5 minutes just to breathe before you go inside and become a mom or wife or the problem solver again. I see you at the desk, clicking through emails while your heart is actually itching for something bigger. I see you. Or maybe you're sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at a mountain of laundry, and you're just tired. You're perhaps wondering if the virtuous life is ever going to feel like more than just a heavy to-do list. But sis, can we be real? Information without implementation is just another heavy load to bear. You can have all the notes and all the amens in the world, but if you're still feeling like life is just happening to you, something is missing. Today is the day we stopped being the passenger in our own story. We've been sitting in the back seat, letting your schedule, your stress, and everyone else's demands do the steering. But today, we're moving you into the driver's seat. Keep your eyes on the road, but get your heart on the mission. It's time to stop just going along for the ride and start navigating your own destiny. Welcome to episode 6 of the Holy Kingdom Purpose podcast, a production of Her Virtuous Purpose. I'm your host, Natalie Trotman. You've been a student of the Word for a long time, but today I'm calling you into the statute. You've been listening to the revelation, but God is looking for you. He is looking for the representation. Now, I know statute sounds like something dusty you find in a courthouse basement, but I want to share with you why being a statute matters to you, the woman who is sitting in her car or staring at the mountain of laundry right now. Most of the time, we feel like we're made of water. We're just flowing with whatever happens. If the day is good, we're good. If the day is a mess, we're a mess. We're reacting to every wind and every wave. But a statute? Honey, a statute is a law set in stone. It's fixed. A stubborn reality that doesn't care about the weather. It doesn't matter if it's snowing, thundering, or a total drought. A statute stands unmovable. So when I say God is calling you to be the living statute, I am saying He wants you to be the one in your house that doesn't change when the storm hits. And listen, I'm not telling you to shut off your heart. I know life can be heavy. I'm not saying ignore your feelings. I'm saying anchor them. Because greater is He who is in you than he who is in the world. 1 John 4:4. God knows you can handle it when the toddler is screaming, the boss is tripping, or the world is shaking. I don't want you to just try to find peace. I want you to be the statute of peace. When that old anxiety tries to knock on your door, let it run into you and find out that your peace isn't a suggestion. It is the position that you are taking. It is the law of the land. I say that because I know what it's like to be fluid. I suffered from depression for a very, very, very long time, probably most of my life. I was the queen of making a mountain out of a molehill. If I missed one day of school because I was sick, I'd already convinced myself I was failing the entire class and losing my shot at college. Oh my gosh, it's so ridiculous that how it sounds now, but I really thought I was just gonna lose my shot at college if I missed a day in school. If I found a tiny bump on my neck, I was already looking for an oncologist because you can't tell me it's not cancerous. I used to check my baby's wrists and under their noses in the middle of the night just to make sure they were still breathing. My worry wasn't just in my head, it was in my body. That acute depression gave me stomach ulcers, acid reflux, and migraines 3 or 4 times a week. Girl, I was a hot mess. It wasn't just worry, it was a full scale rebellion on my body and my nervous system. And then came the adrenal fatigue. Have you ever been there? Where you're wired but tired? Where your body is vibrating with stress but have zero fuel in the tank? That was me. My system was stuck in fight or flight because I was trying to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders that were only meant to carry the things God actually designed for me. Your shoulders were built to carry His grace, not the weight of the whole world's problem. See, the reason I was sick was that I didn't have a statute. I was like a building with no foundation. Every time the wind blew, my walls shook. I was checking my baby's pulses because I wasn't in tune with the invisible no trespassing sign God had already placed in my home according to Psalm 91:7. He says, 1,000 shall fall at thy side and 10,000 at thy right, honey. But, honey, sister girl, it shall not come near your dwelling. Sis. The hands off agreement heaven has over your family, it means you don't have to check your baby's pulses every 5 minutes when the king has already cleared the room. I was stressing about college because I didn't know Jehovah Jireh enough to believe what he guaranteed he'd supply. I was acting like a volunteer for God instead of a representative of God. And that is where the statute changed my life. I realized that my adrenal fatigue was the result of me trying to be the source instead of the statute. I was trying to create peace instead of just enforcing the peace Jesus had already bought. I want you to hear me on this. If you are sitting in your car or driving in your car or sitting on a park bench right now and your heart is racing for no reason, if you are staring at that laundry and you feel a panic coming on, that is your body telling you that you've stepped out of your rank. You left the front door open wide to the storm. But when you decide, and I mean decide, to be a willing statute, you're telling your body, stand down. The final word has been spoken. The case is closed. There's no more room for debate, no more room for what ifs. What God said is the only thing that stands. You're telling those adrenals, you can stop pumping cortisol. The king is on the throne and he is working it out for me. You aren't neglecting your feelings, you're governing them. You're saying, I feel fear, but the statute says, I am sound. Second Timothy 1 and verse 7 says, For God has not given me the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. I feel lack, but the statute says, I am full. The Bible says in Second Corinthians 12, verse 9, and he said to me, My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness, sisters. We do not have to lose ourselves in our issues. I had to learn the hard way that you can't be ecclesia if you're constantly falling apart at the seams. You have to be the one thing in your world that is set in stone. You become the fixed point. You're the one who stands there and says, I don't care what the atmosphere looks like right now. The law of the kingdom says I am provided for. The law says I am healed. The law says my family is whole. Honey, sis, you aren't just reading the rules anymore. You're becoming the living evidence that God's word is final. You're the proof that the storm doesn't get the last word. The statute does. I am a living witness of this truth, sister. I realized I was in a hot mess situation, and I finally had to face the fact that no one was coming to save me. And we all have our stuff, right? We share our problems with friends or family, but let's be real. The people you're venting to usually already know your struggle because they're your family or they live with you or they work with you. And even if they love you, A, they've got their own mountains to climb. And B, they usually don't have the tools to pull you out of yours. So, how did I get from those stomach ulcers and migraines to the woman you're listening to today? One word: Jesus. I literally cried out to him and he answered me. See, being a church girl, I knew enough to challenge him and I knew enough scriptures to quote Matthew 7:7 back to him. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be opened unto you. I was so desperate that I started adding fasting to my prayer life. I figured I'm not a fan of food anyway, so what do I have to lose? Let's just try it. And honey, it worked for me. Even as I'm recording this podcast, I am on my 10th annual extended spring fast. I am a believer in prayer and fasting, and it works for me, and I won't stop. But I digressed. During that fast, my mom texted me about a woman's prayer group on Zoom. At first, I just thought, oh, that's nice, and went on about my day. See, I spent so much of my time trying to put it back together for church, for my family, for the world. I finally stopped performing. I realized I didn't have to be the strong one to be the saved one. But later that evening, I just happened to check to my message and realized that it had just started. So, out of curiosity, I clicked the link. Sister girl, it was like listening to Lauryn Hill singing, strumming my pain with his fingers, singing my life with his words. Listen, that presenter was talking about me. She was describing my life. I felt completely vulnerable for the first time in a very long time. I felt safe. I had found my people. At the end of the call, I grabbed the number for a pastor who was also an advocate for women. I didn't know I'd need it so soon, but in less than 2 weeks later, my husband asked for a separation. I dialed that number, not knowing where in the world I was calling because I didn't even think about checking the area code. But it turned out she lived in Canada. She lives in Canada. And she said hello, and honey, I lost it. Mm. Between bombs of ugly crying, I was just telling her my story and she listened. Oh, she listened. She was so patient. She asked me if I was safe. I told her yes. She asked me if it was okay that I was calling long distance, and I told her yes. And she listened and she listened. And she held space for me. And at the end of our conversation, she told me that she was going to assign me to a friend of hers who is a therapist right here in the United States. That was the moment God started turning my ashes into beauty. He turned my mourning into dancing, but I put in the work. It was hard work, but it was necessary work. Through therapy, intention, seminars, and a lot of hard work, I became an Enneagram coach, a life coach, and eventually, kicking and screaming, a mental health coach. It turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me because of the healing I experienced from myself. And then came the divine hookup. Before I was even certified as a life coach, a friend from high school reached out. She had been promoted to executive CEO. And we were just chatting when she exclaimed, Natalie, you should coach me. You've always been a good listener, you're confidential, and I trust you. The company gave me a coach to help me be better for them, but I want you to help me be better for me. She didn't need a textbook. She needed a statute. She needed someone whose peace was set in a stone so she could find her own. I coached her. She thrived. And years later, she is still winning in that company. But, sister, you have to let go to receive. If your fist is clenched tight around your pain, your hands aren't open to receive your purpose. My destiny was waiting for me, but it required me to take the bold step of saying yes to the call. If I hadn't gone into therapy and ultimately started the training, I'd still be in the test instead of sharing my testimony. Today, I've coached many, published a book, and now I'm a podcaster. And sis, please hear me. If he's done it for me, he can and he will do it for you too. But you have to let go to receive. You have to feel to heal. I want you to do something for me right now. Again, if you're sitting in that car or if you're standing at the sink, look at your hands. Are you gripping tight? Are your knuckles white from trying to hold your life together? Unclench them. You cannot receive your signet ring if your fists are full of control. That ring represents your authority to speak for the king, to sign off on your peace, and to govern your home. But he can't put it on your finger if your hands are closed. My migraines started to fail the moment I stopped trying to carry the mental load of the world, of my family, of my own life. My stomach settled the moment I stopped swallowing the anxiety that started speaking my rank. I didn't just get better, I got realigned. I stopped being a volunteer trying to save my own family, my marriage, and start being the sovereign assigned to cover them. The case is closed on your hot mess season. Your activation begins now. Because once you stop being a fluid mess and start being a fixed statute, people are going to notice a shift in your atmosphere. They're going to see a woman who doesn't fold when the deadline hits or the kids start acting up. That's when the real work starts. See, once your house is in order, you realize you aren't just standing there for yourself anymore. You're standing for the King of Kings. The representation, that's just a fancy way of saying you're God's right hand woman. You aren't just working a job or raising kids. You are heaven's official representative in that office. You're the ambassador in the grocery store. You have the full weight of the kingdom backing you up. You don't need a title on your door to have rank in the spirit. You already have it because of whose you are. Girl, let's go deeper into the right hand woman thing. Think about an executive assistant to a high level CEO. When she walks into a room to deliver a message, staff doesn't look at her and wonder how much money she makes or how much money is in her bank account. They don't look at her resume to see if she has the power to make the call or be in the room. No, they look at the signature on the document she's carrying. So when you walk into your kitchen and you speak peace over your children, Or when you walk into that office and you refuse to participate in the gossip, you are signing heaven's name on that atmosphere. You aren't Dione, a tired mom in that moment. You are the authorized signatory of God's kingdom. You need to understand that your yes and your no carry the weight of the throne, honey. When you say this depression stops here or this lack is not my legacy, the bank of heaven has to honor the signature because you are representing the boss of bosses. Yeah? And here is the beautiful boss level secret. When you become a statute that fixed, unshakable woman, the people around you finally have permission to stop shaking too. The entire atmosphere shifted. You ever notice how when one person in the house is panicking, everyone starts panicking? That's fluid living. When you sit down in your rank, when you become the statute of peace, your environment feels the shift. Your kids feel the safety. Even the family pet, y'all, feels the atmosphere change. Sis, you are the thermostat, not the thermometer. A thermometer just tells you how cold it is. The thermostat changes the temperature of the whole house. By you staying seated in your authority, you are literally governing the climate of your jurisdiction without saying a single word. You are the Kayil woman. You are the boss bone. And sister, the world has been waiting for you to stop watching the road and finally start navigating. The map is in your hand. The signet ring is on your finger, and the king is in the driver's seat. Case closed. We've been talking about Mrs. Eglesia and the Kayil DNA throughout the series. But, ladies, it wasn't just good content for your commute, it was a mirror, not the one on your wall that tells you you're tired, but the one in the spirit that tells you you're triumphant. Honey, sister, the reason you felt that tug in your spirit during these episodes isn't because I'm a great speaker, it's because deep calls onto deep. Your DNA is recognizing its own rank. You aren't just listening to a podcast, you are receiving your marching orders. We are finishing our Women's History Month series today, and I want to make something very clear. The history we've been discussing isn't just about the women of the Bible. I want you to realize that history isn't just something we read about in books. History is what you are doing right now. It's about the woman listening to my voice right now. Every time you choose the statute over the struggle, you are rewriting the history of your family tree. You are telling the generations coming after you that you don't have to live with stomach ulcers and migraines. You are showing them that a woman doesn't have to be a volunteer for her life. She is partnering with the sovereign God over it. You are the current day manifestation of the Miriam strategy. You are the boss bone in your household. You are the one God has assigned to govern the atmosphere over your jurisdiction. See, most people think the kingdom is just an idea in the Bible. But when you walk into a room, even when your pockets are low and you ain't got no money or your heart is heavy, you still carry that peace. You still move with that grace. You become the living proof. Honey, you aren't just reading the law anymore. Sis, you are the law walking around in a pair of jeans. People look at you and realize, oh, okay. So that is how a daughter of the King of Kings handles a storm. You are an authorized signatory of the kingdom. When you speak into your circumstances, heaven isn't looking at your hot mess history. It is looking at the signet ring on your finger and the signature of the king of your life. So take a deep breath, adjust your shoulders. You've been a thermometer long enough, reacting to everyone else's moods. Today, today you become the thermostat, the command center. It's the authority that looks at a freezing room and says, no, we're going to be 72 degrees in here. It dictates the atmosphere until the room matches you being the dial. When you walk into your house as a statue of peace, you aren't just hoping your kids stay quiet or your husband is in a good mood. You're setting the climate. You are the fixed point that says, in this jurisdiction, we operate in grace. In this car, we operate in joy. You aren't reacting to the stress. The stress is having to react to you. At the end of this episode, I don't want you to just feel inspired. You are going to step out of that car and onto the pavement of your purpose. You are going to turn back to that desk and handle those emails with a crown on your head. You are going to walk into that kitchen and realize that the ground you're standing on is now holy ground because an authorized representative of the king just walked in. Case closed. Before we wrap up, a quick reminder. While I am a life and mental health coach, the content of this podcast is for educational and empowerment purposes and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please always seek the advice of your physician or health providers with any questions you may have regarding a medical or mental health condition. Y'all, thank you for riding with me through this special Women's History Month series. If this revelation had stirred something in you, please subscribe on YouTube or follow us on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. Yeah? And be sure to join us right back here next week as we continue our journey into kingdom identity and women's empowerment. Until then, I'm your coach, Natalie Trotman, encouraging you to stay purposefully in His presence because He is where the joy is.